Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. It is Thursday, April 13th. We're getting ready for the Innova Blue Ridge Championships at North Cove. I'm excited for this one, Josh. It's a silver event, but a lot of players are playing it because it's on this week, kind of on the way to Champions Cup in Georgia, and the courses are very interesting. And we've seen the college championships here for a couple of years, but we've not seen a pro level event. And this should be a fun one.
Yeah, it definitely should. I'm excited. I love seeing new courses on tour too, right? It's normally harder to get engaged on the silvers events. The significance in Pro Tour points, the limited field, like you mentioned, this field is still much stronger, but there are some notable names not playing in both divisions. We'll get to that in a little bit. But the newness of courses, the opportunity to see what these kind of events could look like at these places and whether or not they're potential Pro Tour events, that keeps me engaged in silver events. And I really appreciate it about that this season.
I mean, I know it's like, that's the only place to find new courses right now. And I got to be honest, I feel like some of the most interesting and promising new courses are on the silver. And like, what do we get on the main? Why can't I say what it's called? The Elite Series. Thank you. God, need more coffee. We got open at Austin. Like, they made a bunch of changes at Nashville. Haven't really been spectacular. So I'm excited to see some of these places that I feel like the course is the thing. I get that why they want to be in Austin and Nashville, but the courses haven't gotten brought up to the level yet. But when I look at some of these places where they're going that are a little more off the beaten path in terms of where they are, and maybe that dampens spectating, the course is so good that that makes me excited as a disc golf fan. So anyway, we'll talk more about it in a little bit. First, we're going to bounce back to Music City Open because, Josh, one thing we didn't have time to get to much during the last week's show was talking about the FPO side of things. And it was a very interesting tournament until, hole 8 or so, when Kristen had kind of really pulled away and it seemed pretty obvious that she was going to win. And then she did end up winning quite comfortably. Doing a very... I'll be honest. It's very Macbethian what she does, which is even when she's not at her best, she hangs around and then turns it up enough that she's able to pull away because she just has such a complete game. She can throw it far. She can throw the backhand. She can throw the forehand. She can make putts. She has a, fantastic straddle putt from distance that bails her out of, situations where other players would never make the putt because they're uncomfortable straddling outside of a tree or something like that. So, I don't know that we really need to go down the path of talking much about Kristen's win, but I was just impressed because once again, for another win this season, I didn't really feel like she had her A game and she still won.
I think that's a great point. And what's funny though, the part I don't know, it's important to highlight that, not having her A game meant that round 2 was a little bit lackluster, but the rest of the rounds were very A game. Kristen's round ratings, round 2, 945. Remember, this is the bad weather, but I mean,
that was one of the worst rounds of the year to watch. I was in physical pain after that round. It's like 4.5 hours. The players were miserable. It was awful.
Yeah. So Kristen shoots a 945, a 70. Okay. And 4 over par. Not a good round, but she sandwiches that with the 1018 and the 1012.
It's actually kind of shocking that she shot so well in the first round because she misfired on 4 drives to start her tournament. She blasted her forehand into the first available on hole 1.
I think, yeah. So number one, some of the mistakes that you saw that we've seen from her I think we're part of that. And then number two is we had 4 players shoot 990 or better in round 1. So Kristen, Holland, Macy Valadiaz, and Sarah Gilpin. Yeah. And those 4 all shooting around, pretty close numbers to each other made it feel less like, Kristen's dominating, blowing everybody out of the water. And then she backs it up with a 10-12 in round 3 to take down the win. And I mean, 5 strokes clear of the field. So.
Yeah. I mean, but certainly Kristen had an awesome back 9 in round 1. She shot 6 under and like completely turned it around with some of the like early release and misfire stuff we were seeing from the front 9, and was totally locked in. Like that's
right.
It's not quite 8 straight birdies to win, but it was like, okay, so Kristen has taken control of this tournament, and indeed she did.
It's going to be really interesting to see. Imagine if that middle round when we're at Champions Cup, if she shoots a couple 10 plus rated rounds with a couple 980s, right? Shoots her rating at a couple of rounds. Like, how many strokes clear of the field could she be if she did that?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like when Kristen has her A game,
yeah,
she wins by 8 to 10 strokes. And, I think round 3, she really looked like she was on. And, she shot a 7 under. No one, I mean, Rebecca Cox, like, caught crazy fire and shot that. But otherwise, nobody came close to shooting a 7 under this weekend. So, yeah, pretty interesting. But I want to talk about some of the other players down the board, Josh, because we had, one of the best Jen Allen finishes in a long time at this level. And just she's great, like, energy and spirit on the card. Like, she and Macy were like super friendly the whole round until it got a little tense late because Macy was really trying to get that second place finish. But yeah, Jen Allen was playing great, threw some awesome shots. Putter looked pretty good. That's been the problem for Jen. Like we don't talk about Jen Allen that much because she simply doesn't finish, up top 5 all that often. But sure. I actually was really impressed because this wasn't just a like bomber course. You had to have some technical shot making, and she was doing that. And she said, she came in with no expectations. She hadn't even played the course. She just went out there and look what it yielded. I mean, she still has the capacity to go out and win an Elite Series event. I mean, yes, she has to have the putter get going, and it's a little touch and go, but I think you saw this weekend that like it's possible. Interesting. You don't agree?
It was a really, I don't know if I do, and I think part of the reason why is my entire takeaway from this weekend is that I look at the top 10 and I go, if Paige and Katrina have bad weekends, it doesn't feel like there are people right now who are playing at a level to consistently challenge Kristen. And to like that down the stretch, I look at that and go, yep, that person's going to run Kristen down 2 strokes back.
I hear what you're saying. I agree with what you say when you say consistently, but we literally just watched Sai Ananda beat Kristen Tatar heads up.
And you're right.
Now, do I think Sai Ananda is going to do that every week? I mean, I know it's a silver event, but it's not like what more? It's a course. They went out, they played the course. Kristen didn't win. It's not impossible. Like, there are players who have the level in them to shoot well enough to beat Kristen. Like, tell me Holland Handley couldn't have beaten Kristen going into the final round with a 1-stroke lead.
Right now, it doesn't feel like she can. It feels like she goes into a final round and she like there is something. If you go down this list, Jen Allen, like this was her one of her best putting weekends.
She did not putt well in round 3.
Didn't putt well in round 3, right?
50% C1X. You can't do that.
Really good, but still regressed to the mean, right? Macy Valadiaz still very clearly has a mental side that she needs to work around. Rebecca Cox, look, that 7 under was incredible, but she
never had a chance.
8 over par. Yeah. Right. She was so far behind at that point. Holland Handley melted. Evelina still can't putt. Missy could.
Hang on a second. Don't you talk bad about Evelina like that. Did you watch round 3? Because Evelina had the best putting that we've seen in a long time. And I don't even care what your stats
right.
say. I don't even care. You could come up and say, oh, she shot 60% from C1X. She probably did. It probably wasn't statistically good. But I'm telling you, we saw commitment. We saw big, like, circle's edge putts go down. We saw her look like she had confidence in the putter. And I swear to you, it looked different out there. She started the round with like back-to-back big putter makes. I'm telling you, Josh. Yeah, whatever. Give me the stat. Whatever.
Yeah. So you're telling me on Evelina's most confident putting weekend, she was second to last in strokes gained.
I'm talking about round 3, Josh. I don't want to talk about the other round.
-6.99, with the only person who lost to her was Emma Arp, who had worse putting, who shot 32 over par, taking dead last in the tournament at a -11.75.
Okay, but I'm telling you, look at the final round, Josh.
All right. I'll look at the final round.
Where's Evelina in the final round?
64% C1X. 64% C1X, 0% C2.
I understand, but I'm telling you, it had a different look to it. She finished middle of the pack in strokes gained putting in that final round. Middle of the pack, Josh. Middle of the pack. We can take middle of the pack.
But I will be excited when she takes middle of the pack, like 2 of the 3 rounds, or 3 of the 3 rounds.
I understand.
But like man, she's still in
Josh,
like,
the bar is so low. It's like in the netherworld right now. So when anything even remotely positive happens, you got to get excited for it.
Emma Arp did not take dead last. There were 3 people who took worse than her. Emma Arp, though, is 883 rated. She's the only one who putted worse than Evelina. And I get that you want to get excited. But my point is, when I look down this list... I know.
Okay, all right.
Right.
You made your point.
All right.
I don't think we need to go through the stats on Evelina's putting being bad anymore.
I didn't either, but you wanted to pick the fight, so... I was content just to keep running down the list. But my point is, there are a lot of players here. And look, like Ella Hansen in position, Holland Hanley in position. There are a lot of these players who have the skills. And I still think that Ella's probably going to get a win this season. But if you go down this list, I can just pick off each of these people. I can give you a reason right off the top of my head why that person isn't going to win. And I don't have that for Kristen, right? And you need people like Paige, like Katrina, like Missy even, right? Like, I know Missy's maybe distance, but you can't even knock her for that even, right? Like, Missy overcomes that so frequently on courses that do require distance and has won at the biggest level, that I include Missy in that group. Once Valerie Montejano's back, right? That's another one. Those are players who have a complete game, who have experience, who have the mental side, who have the skills that I could pick and say, yep, this person has everything that it takes to win, and I don't have my one reason why I won't pick them. But anyone around Kristen this weekend, I could pick that reason pretty quickly. And that just shows to me that there are, we talk often about tiers on the FPO side, right? Or on both sides, right? Just in there's your tier 1s and your tier 2s. But I think that you could create just like a tier and a divide right now between those who have the completeness to be regular contenders on tour and those who are we're waiting to pick something up, and maybe that's the tier 1. I mean, but
I don't disagree. And to be honest, I think Kristen's in her own tier right now. I don't think anyone else is in that tier, because it's not just that she wins more than others; it's that she consistently plays well every single week. Every single week. Yeah, like her bad finish is that she misses the top 3, and is like, wow, my podium streak came to an end. I finished 5th. What a disaster! I'm like, what? Like, you can't say the same about Paige. Yeah. Once upon a time, yeah, but like right now, Paige is feast or famine a little bit. Now, obviously, Paige has the capacity to win. I mean, we just heard Brian Earhart on Tuesday pick her to win a Champions Cup, and she just won at Austin. So, like, it's not like this is some, impossibility or something. So, hang on a second here. I hear what you're saying, but I also want to point out that, like, look at some of the players who were on the lead card, right? So we have Jen Allen, who's a veteran, you know, playing for like 20 years. And we know what Jen Allen is. We know what Jen Allen's about. And yeah, she may be one of those players that just never wins one. But I think
she not
shows
have an Elite Series?
I don't think so. I don't think she's ever won one.
Did she not win Memorial when it was on the Elite Tour?
I don't think so, Josh. I don't think so.
Interesting. I definitely thought she would have. I'm going to pull up Statmando while you're talking.
So, but then look at the other players, right? We have two players who are really still extremely new to tour, like within the last 2 years going on tour. Macy Villa-Diaz and Holland Handley. And I understand what you're saying. Like right now, are they ready to go out and beat Kristen at an Elite Series event? Probably not. But this is like exactly the same thing I said about Ella Hansen a couple weeks ago. You have to go out there and take your lumps and learn what it's like to play under the pressure of the lead card at a big tournament in today's game. And they both got that opportunity. And what did I see? What did I see? I'll tell you. I'll give you the scouting report on both players. Holland Handley has all the skills necessary to become a champion on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. The problem is she hasn't learned how to golf. She hasn't learned how to golf. Case in point, out of position, I got to get the hole right. I think it was 6. It was 5. Hole 5 is the one where you have to throw the landing zone. There's like 2 gaps in the trees, and then you got to kind of throw back around to the basket a little bit like horseshoe-ish. And she's kind of far back from the gap. And so instead of just saying, you know what, I'm playing it for par, she grabs a driver and tries to push it to the green, comes up short and goes OB. Mistake number 1. Mistake number 2, unsure exactly how to get around the corner to the basket, which was only 7,500 feet away, and doesn't think through it enough and says, oh, maybe I should throw Scoober. And then like 5 seconds later, throws one of the worst Scoobers I've ever seen thrown in competition. Right? It was like something that you would see at a local tournament. And the thing is, it's like, it's not like there's some kind of disaster with the way that, you know, she played overall. It's just like these little mistakes adding strokes, because then she missed the putt and takes a double bogey and basically like kind of took herself out of the tournament. And there was similar stuff like that throughout the weekend where it's like, okay, you have so much talent. You can grab these birdies at any time, but are you ready to like go out there and make the right choices and make the smart decisions? And you have to learn how to do that. And she's barely been playing. So I completely understand it. I think on the other side, you got Macy Villa-Diaz, who I think you said it. Like there's a little bit of mentality stuff that has to change. She took back-to-back double bogeys early in the round and, you know, kind of like firebombed her opportunity, but then kind of fought back, not to with a chance to win, but to like get up onto a second place finish. You know, I got to be honest, on 17, if you watched, she overruled the spotter and claimed that her disc had gone in bounds. And, you know, I know how bad she wanted that disc to be in bounds. But I feel like I think it's kind of embarrassing when I watch the players straight up overrule a spotter who was standing right there. And I don't think when I watch back on the coverage that disc ever crossed in bounds. And nope. I don't, you don't see it that often on tour, but like, take your lumps. You missed the shot. The spotter watched directly where the disc hit the tree and fell down out of bounds. It did not cross in bounds. And like you wanted it so bad that you basically convinced yourself that you should get this advantage. Now then ended up getting punished for it in some karmic way. And was like clearly emotional and crying because, you know, of the roll away and like missing and ended up taking the bogey. But, you know, ends up bouncing back with a birdie on 18. Jen Allen doesn't get the birdie, so she finishes tied for second. It's a great finish either way. You can see how much it means to her. But, you know, clearly just like not quite able to push past the mistakes. And she even said that in an interview at one point. So,
well, yeah. And you've got those players standing off to the side who are like, yeah, I mean, I guess if that's what you think happened, we'll give it to you. I mean,
bad look. But I see it's not just Macy. This happens on the regular. People just overrule spotters and just like talk their card mates into giving them like a favorable spot when like clearly they were not in bounds.
And like this happens at every level where you know players are just gonna, because you don't want it's back to the Nico problem, right? It's you don't want the discomfort of saying, you know what, no, sorry, you don't get that lie. You were out of bounds, you don't get it, and then you got to play the rest of the round, right? Or tour the rest of the season with this person. It makes sense, but it's you're right. It's a bad look. And here's the other thing. I completely agree with you on all the long-term analysis of these players, right? Macy Vela-Diaz, Holland Hanley, Evelina Salonen, right? These FPO players are going to be stars. And it maybe even by next year, they could be stars, right? They have so much talent and such a high skill level in facets of the game that weren't even a part of FPO 3 years ago, 4 years ago, right? With the forehand and the kind of distance that they bring, they are amazing players. Right now, they are not ready. There's work to be done, and you know, it's clear. I think just the scores reflect that. But I completely agree with you on the scouting report in the long term. And, but right now, I mean, this weekend and perhaps this year belongs to Kristen still. And she is showing us that she is in just a tier of her own. She's in a league of her own and just playing an amazing game of disc golf. And it's cool to watch. It's very cool to watch.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're talking Innova Blue Ridge Championships, and we're going to talk with tournament director Henry Childres. Stay with us.
At Pound, the quality of our gear runs deeper than the stitching. That's why we make everything right here in the U.S., employing highly skilled, well-paid professionals. From bomb-proof Cordura fabric to YKK zippers and recycled plastics, we source the highest quality U.S. materials to make the most comfortable, durable pack in disc golf. Our lifetime warranty stays with the pack, not the purchaser. So regardless of how you find us, we will be here to make sure your pack stays on the course and out of the landfill. Pound's integrity is held together with more than just thread.
Joining us now on the Upshot is the Innova Blue Ridge Championships at North Cove tournament director, Henry Childres. Henry's a longtime TD in the sport and a familiar face along the East Coast. Henry, how are you?
Doing well. How are you guys?
We're doing great. We're excited for this weekend's event. We're excited to see these courses played by the professionals. Tell us a little bit about how this tournament came together as, that's its first time here on the Disc Golf Pro Tour and the Silver event.
Sure. So this has been just a fantastic team effort among three different groups working together, the Pro Tour, North Cove, and Innova, of course. And it's just been amazing to see the amount of effort that's gone into all the prep work. The venue here is the host of the College National Championship last week. So we've had folks up here already for, for a couple weeks, getting the course ready, painting all the lines and whiskers and all the little details that go into making an event successful. So huge shout out to the team for all the prep to get the courses up to the condition we're going to see them in this weekend. It is absolutely gorgeous out here. And this time of year is, it's special. We kind of talked about whether we should move the college nationals to a week or two later to let all the, the trees blossom and all that. So that's why I'm getting choked up a little bit here with all the pollen in the air, but I think it'll be worth it in the long run. So yeah, it really came together over the last few weeks, but the planning of course started a long time ago. So pardon me, I have to sip the coffee here. So
I'll join you.
Yes, good timing. So I was approached by one of the owners here, Kyle, actually at Jeremy Coling, Big Jerm's wedding. He's my best friend, and I was his best man, so shout out Jerm. But we were up here at the venue for that, and Kyle just kind of said, "Hey, do you want to run a Pro Tour event?" And I was like, maybe, sure, So it was just kind of thrown out there, and then we batted around for months and figured out all the details, and here we are.
That's an incredible story. So when I look at this course, we've seen it at the college national championship. How does the course now for the Pro Tour compare to the course as it was a couple weeks ago for the college national championships?
Sure. Yeah. Great question. So there are 3 courses on the property. We've got River Run, which we are using this week for a warm up and practice area. So a full course for warming up on site. The Boulders course that we used last week for the Nationals, as well as this week for FPO, has been adapted just slightly. So any fans who would have been watching and seen the final hole on River Run across the first part of the Catawba River onto the island, that would be the 18th hole River Run. Now that's hole 1 on the Boulders course for us for this week. So we are skipping traditional hole 1 Boulders, playing that one instead. And I believe the rest of that course is pretty much intact as you would have seen it. Same thing with Gorge. I mean, it is a massive, big, challenging course that we played last week, and I don't believe it's changing much. We've had a couple of adjustments to drop zones, that kind of thing, but otherwise it's going to be pretty much what you've seen, just with more flowers and pollen in the air.
I mean, this property just looks beautiful. And I don't know how much background knowledge you have on the property itself, North Cove, and like the development of this has been so disc golf forward, even though it's not just a purely disc golf location. Is that right?
Right. So this is a former golf course. It was designed, I believe, in the 90s by Lee Trevino. Don't quote me on the year, but that was definitely the designer. So yeah, this place is amazing. I mean, it was developed as a golf course. There's a whole community here. Lots of houses on the hillside looking down from both sides in the valley. So it's a really special and unique place. Kyle and Luke came in and purchased the property a few years ago, and they've been working really hard to develop it into a true destination for disc golf. The 3 courses here are top quality, designed by USDGC course designer Andrew Duvall. And I mean, it's a special place. Anytime in planning and executing an event, there's always going to be those tense moments, with the staff kind of like been working hard for a long time now. And, the tour guys coming in, they've been on the road, and, we're all sort of frazzled. And anytime there's any sort of, there's minimal, very minimal headbutting, but anytime there's any stress like that, we just kind of turn around, look out at the course, take a breath, and you're like, it's worth it. This is fine.
Yeah, it's spectacular. And I want to talk a little bit about the fact that Andrew Duvall designed these courses, because when you look at the Gorge, and we were going through the caddy book before the show, and I feel the USDGC influence all over this course. There's like tiny island greens all over the place. There's the bunker green where you want to be in the sand, which, is reminiscent of the whole USDGC's front 9. And, I feel like I see a lot of those elements here. Do you get that sense, having seen the course and obviously prepared for this event?
Yeah, definitely. It's got that top quality feel when you're out there. It just feels special and unique. And it's, the challenge is not a secret. It is very, very difficult. Long, challenging holes, lots of OB. It's beautiful out here, and we're in the mountains, so we have all that elevation to work with. Specifically, I believe it's hole 4 on the Gorge course. It's like if you took a USDGC hole and put it in, San Francisco. It's just this very special, unique kind of hole that I don't believe I've seen anywhere else. And there's a lot of that on that course. It's hard to really compare it to anywhere else, but it does have that sort of feel like USDGC, where the challenge is there, and it's just, it's very punitive. So you're on your toes the whole way. Big downhill, time to watch the disc fly shots. One thing out here that separates it a little bit. But very watchable, very spectator friendly. So yeah, definitely. I would agree with that for sure.
Talk a little bit about hole 18. We've seen it called, I think we saw it somewhere on socials, or a preview video called it the hardest hole 18. Describe that hole a little bit, and what players are going to have to do, and how that sets up for a finishing hole.
Sure. Yeah, it's a great finishing hole. It's a score separator for sure. It's a long carry off the tee shot to just even get to inbounds. Once you do that, you're going to have to negotiate another very long shot onto an island green. So it is very challenging and scary just because of that. It's unique in that you're going to have spectators on the bridge directly behind the green looking down, kind of similar to USDGC, the patio at the Shack. It used to be the pro shop up there. You get all the fans kind of standing up, looking down, kind of stadium feel. So that's a really cool, unique feature. But yeah, it's a very, very demanding island. So I think we'll definitely see a lot of players going for it. And two, I think we'll see a lot of layup smart plays as well. It's big potential numbers on that hole. So I'm excited to see how the top pros negotiate it for sure.
How are things looking for spectating? Because when I think about this tournament and this property, it's like, okay, this clearly feels like something that wants to be having a Pro Tour event every year. But you are kind of out in the middle of nowhere a little bit in the mountains, which means that you get great property, but it also means that you're further from the people. So not terribly far from Asheville, not terribly far from Charlotte, but it's still a drive. What are spectator numbers looking like right now?
Sure. Yeah, we've sold a few hundred tickets. So that was a big question mark coming into this event. Not only how many tickets can we sell and what would the demand be for the reasons that you mentioned, but also, it's a golf course. So you kind of have the vibe of like this big place with plenty of room and all that. But we're in the mountains, so the parking is limited. We have shuttles coming in for spectator management and things like that. So we actually, we actually ended up having to limit ticket sales to accommodate for that. Pardon me, I'm sorry about the pollen. We have 400 or 500 tickets sold, I believe, and that was because we just had to cap it. Last week during Nationals, we had a thunderstorm pop up, which unfortunately is in the forecast again. It seems to be every tournament weekend, right? So we had a good run through with the emergency evacuation plan last week and getting everybody safe. And without incident, we were able to move 500 or 600. Actually, I'm sorry, there were over 700 players here last week. So 700 or 800 people, keep them safe from the storms and all those things. So it's been interesting. Like I mentioned, it was a big question mark at the beginning. How many people are going to want to come and be there? It is a couple hours from Charlotte, about an hour from Asheville, and it's been a great response, and we've seen lots of folks wanting to come out and watch the event, which is awesome. But you have to manage those concerns as well. So you mentioned it being in the middle of nowhere, and that's definitely true. And it's interesting. It's one of the best and worst things about the venue. It's amazing you're out here. You're separated from reality almost. But when you need something from reality, it's a half an hour away. So,
Do you feel like, so Champions Cup, for example, WR Jackson, last year, they have a pretty limited number of spectators just due to course constraints, right? So wooded course, making sure that you had sight lines and were able to accommodate the number of spectators. So they limited numbers pretty severely. They were able to open that up thanks to changes that were made primarily for the spectator side. If this, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't, but let's say this keeps going well, this becomes a regular tour event. Do you see a capacity for increasing spectator numbers up from the 500 or so and trying to get in, several thousand if there were changes made dedicated to the spectator side at this property?
I think there's potential for that for sure. There are lots and lots of plans to keep developing this property, plans for a music venue, for example. So with that in mind, there's going to need to be, some plans for that kind of thing as well. So right now it's, the biggest concern is parking. Like I mentioned, there's plenty of space because it's a golf course, but if you're parking on grass, it's a rainy day, there's potential to get stuck and, all kinds of things like that. So, there's plenty of room to expand. I've heard, talk of some glamping units, nice, camping stuff back here too in the woods, up in the mountains. So, they have big plans for sure. And there's no reason that they're not going to get there for sure.
All right. So we like to do this game. predict the hot round in MPO on the Gorge this weekend?
Man, that's a tough one. It's hard to say. That's a tough one. I think we'll see double digits. It's difficult, but it's not impossible. It's an achievable goal for these very talented players. I could see an 11 or 12 potentially, but I may look like an idiot and somebody shoot 15. I wouldn't be that surprised either.
There's no way someone's shooting 15.
See,
there's no way that
this is the reasonable take. The number of TDs who come onto us and are like 10, no more than 10, never happening. And then Eagle goes out and shoots a 14, and they're like, "Well, okay."
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there's no limit to what you can do. It's like I mentioned before. These talented players. It's just amazing. The skill level over the past few years has just really gone crazy, exponentially better than it used to be. To technology and all those things, of course, but there's no way a 17-year-old kid's going to win, a major. There's no way all this stuff, and it just keeps happening. So, I like to think that anything's possible, and we'll see what they can do.
All right, before we let you go, what are you just most excited for this weekend?
I am really looking forward to seeing a lot of my friends. I haven't played many tournaments at all lately. Over the past few years, almost none, but I used to play 20 to 30 tournaments a year. And so I got just a little bit of a taste of being not on tour, but, hanging out with the tour players and competing, not for myself quite at that level, but I had the potential, we'll say. So a lot of my friends are out there on the road, and it's always really nice to be able to see them in person and, give them a hug and wish them good luck and all that good stuff. So I'm looking forward to the reunion aspect of it for sure. And just, being a part of all this. We talked about, I've been running tournaments for a long time. I've run a tournament out here with over 200 players before. But, the Pro Tour, just machine and being a part of that is really cool. And having the kind of Innova machine and Pro Tour machine work together, it's almost like we're Transformers making Voltron or whatever. I should have known that exact reference before I started down that line, but you know what I mean. So
I think Voltron is
been a
correct.
really cool experience. Nice.
Awesome. Well, good luck out there this weekend, and I know I'm looking forward to checking out the courses, and should be a lot of fun. So thanks, Henry.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Henry Childres with us on the Upshot. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Upshot. So great to hear from Henry on all things North Cove and Josh. I mean, it really, just over his shoulder, it looks so beautiful. It's going to be a nice change of pace from some of the a little bit more dull courses. Have we had a great course yet that we're like, wow, that's beautiful? I don't think we have. Waco's
I don't think so either.
Nice-ish, but this is going to be like
Waco
beauty.
No one. I don't think I've never heard anyone be like, "Yeah, Waco is just like the most gorgeous course I've seen." I mean, there's parking lot, the pond next to 17 is kind of a swamp. Waco's not the most aesthetically pleasing course. This one looks great. I'm excited about this one. I mean, if Big Germ had his wedding there, he probably chose it. Big Germ, when we interviewed him last year, talked about how gorgeous this course was. So
yeah, I'm really excited, and let's take a look at some of these holes. And why don't we start with 18? You brought it up. Hole 18, Josh, par 4, very challenging. This is for the MPO, 818 feet, and it's got an island, but they got a waiver from the PDGA, so there's no drop zone for this tiny island green. And we're talking tiny. We're talking like it's got a little. You can see it, if you're watching on YouTube, it's got a little bit of like a peninsula front end of it, but like its width is less than a full circle's width, so it's like 30 feet or less across, and you got to throw into the trees. And I mean, this is just like ultra challenging. And I kind of love it, Josh, because this is going to give us what Music City Open did not, which is scoring separation.
Right.
Like, obviously this is not going to be an eagleable hole, but it is going to let us see birdies and bogeys and maybe even double bogeys. Because if you miss the island, you don't go to a drop zone, you have to rethrow from the last place you were inbounds on the main fairway. So just going across the green is not save you. You're not going to get a putt. So it's kind of hole 17-esque with USDGC. You got to rethrow. Yeah,
you have to stick the green in order to advance. To advance to the island, right? I completely agree with you. This I know we haven't been rating a hole 18s on silver events, but I'm really excited to see this one. It looks like one of the best potential for hole 18s that we've seen this year on tour, and I think this is a really nice designed hole. And there is Music City Open also had a waiver. I believe it was on hole 18 or 16, excuse me. Where you had to cross and stick the island in order to cross over. But I like the use of tweaking the rules in order to make 18 a little bit more challenging, because it doesn't feel so gimmicky, right? 17 can be accused of being a little bit too odd, right? You know, the fact that you just have to re-tee over and over on this tiny island. This one, I mean, it still lets you advance down the main fairway. You get to approach, you get a better look for your next shot, but you have to stick the island to make it. I love that change for the rules for a hole 18 like this. I think it's a great job. We should highlight that there are half a dozen holes on this course that have PDGA waivers approved for, maybe not quite half a dozen, but 4 or 5 approved for, I think
various rule oddities and changes that are non-standard. Yes. I don't know if that much. I guess we'll see how it plays out, and if that. But at least for one hole that's like a signature hole, I think it's a great idea. It's a great way to kind of expand the limits of what that hole can do. Well, and I brought this up with Henry, but let's look at this. Hole 3, skinny, narrow fairway with OB everywhere. It's par 4, 564 feet. You're basically throwing your first shot to put you in position to attack a sand trap. That's the green. Everything around the sand trap is out of bounds. I don't think I've ever seen this before, but the basket is inside of the sand trap, and it's kind of like a little squiggly sand trap. It's not like a big circular one, but you got to throw it into the sand in order to be on the green and then try to make your putt for birdie.
I love this and hate it at the same time. The reason I hate it is I'm trying. I wish. Hey, Pro Tour, shout one request, please. I want distance markers on your caddy books. I want to know how far from the tee certain shots are crossing, like from the edge of the fairway to the island or the green. I want to know how far that is. For what it's worth,
they do put that on some of their caddy books. Maybe this is just like on some silver. They just didn't do it.
Yeah, I don't know, but anyway, I would love that on all your caddy books. So because I don't know what the distance is to the edge of the fairway to the island. But that's a really small island, and it's an odd shape, and it's difficult. I wish the island bunker was maybe a little bit more uniform, maybe a little bit bigger. But with that in mind, like, I love the idea of throwing it into the sand trap to be safe. I think, number one, it's easier to see visually, right? A lot of the complaints that we get on golf courses is that, it's really hard to see the greens 400 feet away. And it's, and you put it right next to the green, and the green is hazard, a golf green. And then all of a sudden, like, very visually for the players, it's very difficult to identify the difference between inbounds and out of bounds from distance. I think this resolves that problem and is really great. The other part, though, is like, this just feels so consistent with the spirit of disc golf, right? If you had an abandoned golf course and you just took a bag of discs out and you went out with your friends, or just a couple discs, and were throwing around playing object golf, right? How you would absolutely say, all right, you got to throw it in the sand trap. Like that, this feels disc golf to me. And I love that. I love that about it. So I like the use. I think it's creative. I'm excited to see it play. I want to see how fair it is, because you're like you highlighted. I mean, the biggest part of this island green, where the basket is smaller than circle 1 by a fair margin. So I want to see how fair it is, but I love this idea.
I will note there are 6 island holes on this course. That's crazy. And then, of course, the FPO are playing a completely separate course. And just for some context, the D1 singles MA1 players at college championships, so like the top level men's players, the college championships, they played a round on boulders and they played a round on the gorge. So, but the thing is, they only played 13 holes on the gorge. They played a full 18 over on the boulders. The scores coming in on the boulders, 11 under. Then the 13-hole course, the best score was even, which is why I think Henry's idea that somebody can shoot, I mean, I think even double digits feels like pretty ambitious. I bet somebody will get it. They always seem to get it. But 15 is just no way. There's just too many bogeys to be had out here. Too many holes where a slight misfire means bogey. And that even par, which again, 13 holes. So I don't know how you want to extrapolate that. Maybe it's 2-3 under on a full 18. Was rated 1027. So that gives you a sense of maybe where things will end up.
I mean, yeah, but do you remember OTB Open? They did amateur weekend the weekend before. It was 9. The even was not. Even was 1,000 rated, I think, is what it was.
Yeah, I remember that.
Was 1,000.
I remember that.
Right? Remember?
Yeah, I do.
Like even, and we're like, oh no way, no way, and or like some over par, like some crazy number was 1,000 rated, and we're like, oh no way, double digits, and then Eagle shot a 13 under. Number one, I think it's really hard to compare with the best, like, because think about Fountain Hills and Memorial. That course goes from like a difficult, ambitious course for MA1 and turns into birdie fest for distance. So distance is just like a game changer in terms of how courses score. And the other part, you say there's too many bogeys to be had. The real question though, like there will with the level of talent that we have, there's always going to be a player who goes out and manages to shoot a bogey-free round. And if the birdies are gettable here, then I think, I don't know if 15 is, but like 13, 14, like I wouldn't be surprised if it happens.
And I'm going to say this too. I'm super excited. They have a separate course for FPO that's going to be perfectly tuned for their game. We're going to see double-digit under par in FPO as well, I think. When you look at these MA1 players who are playing the college championships, their ratings 935, 979, 958. I mean, that's more or less comparable to the women's side. Now, arguably, they are throwing a little further than the women, but putting and approaching a little worse. I don't know how that will play into things, but I think the birdies are definitely going to be out there. This is not a let's add a couple new tee pads and change pars course. This is like, no, we have a course that is really well tuned for the 960 rated player, and then they have a course that's really well tuned for the 1030 rated player, and they're playing separate courses. This is the future of Pro Tour courses.
You love to see it.
You do. That
was the first thing I noticed when I went and looked at this caddy book, and just was so excited to see that. So
yeah, it's fantastic. I think the Boulders course is a little more straightforward. There's still some tricky shots, a couple islands, but it's not daunting like the this other gorge course is. So anyway, remember, Silver's every round covered live now, so you can watch it just like a regular tournament. And it starts tomorrow on Friday. So looking forward to checking this one out. And I hope they don't get too many thunderstorms on Friday. It does look a little scary out there in the forecast. So Josh, I mean, we got to do it. Over under 9.5 for MPO best round.
Over
under 9.5. No, I'm going to go 8.5 FPO best round.
Over.
I like it.
So both being shooting a better round than 8.5 and 9.5.
9 under par or better is what you're taking.
Or better, correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Good.
Yep.
All right. Time to go to we've got to make our picks. Sorry.
Let's make our picks. Yeah.
Here we go. Yep. Quickly picks. We're picking winners today. Josh, who you got?
All right. I am taking Kyle Klein.
Wow.
He was my way too early favorite for Champions Cup. I really like this course for Kyle. I think that he has one of those kind of well-rounded games where he has the distance that every hole is going to, he's got the distance he needs for every hole. But it's something, I wish I could give you and pinpoint a specific reason as to why, like, I feel like this is Kyle Klein's weekend, but it's just the Spidey sense, man. It's just something in my gut is telling me that goes to Kyle Klein. He's had a really strong start to early season. And Kyle's had a handful of silver events wins, and so he plays well at the silver events. And I'm excited for him on this one. I think he's got a good chance. So I'm taking Kyle Klein.
I'm going to take Ricky Wysocki.
Oh, nice!
I just
welcome
feel
back,
like,
Rick.
yeah, and like, kind of the couple people missing, and like he looked pretty good at MCO. He plays well at USDGC. I know he blew it last year, but like he's capable on this kind of technical course, and he's good in the woods. So I just feel like Rick he got his tune up in, and now he's going to come out and be like, yeah, I'm back, baby.
Yeah.
Sonky Bomb is back.
Like
He's going to say that guaranteed if he wins.
Well, on the FPO side, Charlie, you asked me last week when I was going to quit picking Kristen. And the answer is not now. Kristen again. So that's who I'm picking.
Look, I was playing 4D chess, and that was not appropriate last week, and I'm going to take Kristen as well.
Yeah, okay.
Have to.
Look, she's got 2 wins. Like, it's paying off. I'm just going to keep picking her, and even if she only wins half the time,
just
like, oh darn.
No Paige, no Katrina. Like, do you see Own outperforming Kristen on this course? I don't think so. Valerie Mondahano's still
Missy,
registered
maybe.
as of this moment. Will we see her get a tune-up round in before we head to Champions Cup? I'm
hoping so for the over.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's our picks. It's time for 30-second rule. We get 30 seconds per topic, and if we go over, it doesn't matter. Josh, what do we got?
Yeah, so first up, reminder, we now have Monday qualifier for Champions Cup. That's going to be happening this coming Monday, shortly after the Blue Ridge Championship. And it's got, man, it's going to be competitive for 8 spots. There are, it's a decent field for a qualifier, and
decent.
I would say,
Josh, this goes beyond decent. This is like the world's most competitive qualifier in the history of disc golf. I mean, there's 22 players. Let me just go down the list. Okay. Of the 22 players, 17 of them are over 1,000 rated. You've got Kevin Jones, Ezra Aderholt, James Conrad, Andrew Marweed, Garrett Gerthy, Aaron Gossage, Andrew Presnell, Luke Humphreys, Casey White, Austin Hannum, Tim Barham, Evan Scott, Zach Arlinghouse, Chandler Fry, Dylan Horst, Matt Dollar. I could keep going. Only 8 of those players are going to get into this tournament. This is the NBA play-in tournament of disc golf.
Yeah, it is. Here's my question for you. Putting aside the dilemma that got them to this situation, USDGC is a little bit like this, but like, I feel like Champions Cup should also be like I think all of our majors need to be maybe more exclusive.
More exclusive.
Yes.
Like,
let me pull up Champions Cup right now. Okay.
Well, I was going to say, I think you want to have a tournament where it's not exclusive, and I think we have that. It's Worlds. It's like, anybody who has like the bare minimum requirements and is high enough rated can go to Worlds.
Yes.
And that's cool because it's like, everybody can come out. You're an amateur. You're ready to try to make the leap. Let's go, baby. What you got?
Right.
Like, it was a fun storyline at the Masters to have like the high amateur up at the top of the leaderboard for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I agree. Like, having a tournament where it's more qualified entries is cool.
And like, there are like, where if I look down this list, right, and I look at on the Champions Cup registration list. Jake Mon, Raven Newsom, Nathan Queen, like those guys have won events or like competed for wins. And so that's 10-10. Okay. That's where they're Nathan Queen is 10-10 rated. There are still probably 30 guys. I'm not going to sit here and count it, but probably 30 guys below Nathan Queen that are 10-10 rated below 10-10.
Yeah, no, the PGA borked this. Okay. There's no way that they should have not made it easy for the top pros to get into this tournament. This is never going to happen again because the Pro Tour is going to be like, what are you guys doing? Like, why are our pros, like, so many guys miss registration? Clearly the communication was poor. Clearly they made mistakes on this. I don't need to go back over this. We're way past the 30 seconds. The point is, it is what it is. And now we have this crazy Monday qualifier, and this should never happen again. Like, please let the pros have a clear opportunity to register. I'm sorry, but I don't think Champions Cup should have sub 1,000 rated players playing. Unless they qualify by winning a tournament.
Unless they qualify by winning a tournament.
Which I believe is what happened for the sub 1,000 rated guys. They either won or their rating dipped below 1,000 after they registered.
That's right. You're right.
World's most brutal game of musical chairs in FPO, by the way. 5 players, 4 spots. Jessica Weitz, Emily Beach, Silva Saarinen, we saw a little bit on the coverage at Music City Open, Leah Sinigini, and Haley Childs. So that's going to be stressful out there. I hope they put them all on one card.
Yeah. Brutal. Do you think they're going to give him a favorable lie on 17 about crossing in bounds if there's a spot on the line? Like in Music City Open?
Oh, I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it was a throwback to Music City.
I think it's going to be a little cutthroat out there.
Yeah, I think so. All right, next topic, 30-second rule. Missy Gannon has been announced as co-captain of Team Discraft. I think this is a natural. I mean, Missy Gannon's a great player. I think she's a great figure in the sport, and adding her to have an FPO presence next to Paul Ulibarri, the other co-captain, I think is just a great move by Discraft. So congratulations to Missy Gannon.
I truly don't really know what a team captain does, but I think it's cool that Discraft is starting to see the light on like doing more FPO promotion.
Yeah.
But
I don't either. But
what do they do?
Hopefully she makes a little more money for it.
A team. I don't know. Yeah. It means nothing to me.
They wear a armband for captain, and they're the only ones who get to talk to the PDGA officials. It's how Discraft avoids the Nico situation. Paul just comes running out of the forest when someone has a dispute with an official to take care of it. Anyway.
Legends team Paul Ulibarri is here to talk to us about
is it Legends or is it Icon team? I thought it was
I don't know.
Whatever. Anyway, Music City Open. Bad weather created a couple of DNFs on the MPO side. That includes Nicholas Ontala, Paul Ulibarri, Emerson Keith, and Ben Calloway. Nicholas is registered, I know, for upcoming.
He is. His back is kind of messed up, and he's been dealing with that. I'm sort of surprised to see him still registered. I kind of figured he would take the week off and maybe just try to heal up, and maybe he still will. But I don't know. It's been kind of a bummer start for the MPO Europeans outside of Simon. You know, Linus Carlson hasn't been able to get over here because he can't get a visa right now for some reason. Nicholas has like been a little hurt and not finishing well. You know, what have you seen Albert Tom anywhere near the top of the leaderboard? It's kind of been a tough start to the 2023 season for them.
Yeah, definitely has been. All 4 of them are currently registered for Blue Ridge Championships.
Yeah, you know, I'm going to be honest. I think some of those withdrawals were I'm playing like shit and I just want to get out of here.
I know Yuli twisted his ankle pretty good in the mud.
Yeah,
I saw an Instagram post. So,
but I think it's like, but if it was a different tournament, you play through it, you know. And if you're like, man, this weather is horrible. I'm playing horrible. I'm not going to make cash. I'm out.
I'm hurt now.
I'm out.
Gone. Yep, I agree. Yep. Next on 30-second rule, Zach Melton. If you don't follow Zach Melton on Twitter, he is one of like my favorite disc golf Twitter accounts to follow.
Definitely a top
Make sure
follow.
to go give Zach Melton a follow. Yeah. He tweeted, spoilers aren't a real thing in disc golf anymore in #disc golf. Back when we only had post-production, yeah, it was a thing. Not anymore. We're live every weekend. If choose to not watch or cannot watch, you got to avoid social media. The world will not stop for you. Tags Disc Golf Pro Tour and PDGA.
Okay, here's my take. All right. Largely agree. I've been a hater on the spoilers crowd for a while. The people who complain, I've been a hater. Like people come onto our Facebook page and are like, "Why are you spoiling the result of this tournament?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like this is we're a news website." But I also think where possible, there should be efforts taken to avoid spoilers within reason. So over on Reddit, for instance, do you have to have so-and-so wins the Music City Open, or can you just say Music City Open post-game thread chatter? Yep. And then when you click in, you see. I don't feel like you need to go out of your way to try to spoil it for people. But I also think that if you're somebody who wants to watch it in post and be surprised, you need to watch Gatekeeper Media. You need to... you need to think about, okay, what I shouldn't go on Facebook, I shouldn't go on Twitter. I just need to have a blackout until then. But I don't think people need to like aggressively attempt to make it a bad time for people who are trying to avoid spoilers. That's what I would say.
Okay. All right. It definitely has gotten to the point where people are like trying to prove a point and they want to like get the people who are upset about spoilers coming out and like kind of pick that fight. So I definitely see what
I don't think we need to pick the fight.
Yeah. Okay. All right. The one thing that I heard, and I saw on socials is people were asking the Pro Tour to please quit putting the winners on like their YouTube thumbnails because they get notifications and recommendations on YouTube and it has the winner in it.
Now, see, I actually think that's a legit complaint. It's not I think necessary. So too. They should just vary it all the time. Sometimes it's the winner. Sometimes it's not the winner. That doesn't cost them anything to do that.
Nope, it doesn't.
You know,
that's easy.
Or always put the most like prominent famous player, whether or not they win, right? Sure. Always put Paul if he's on the card. Always put Kristen if she's on the card. Whatever. But like don't automatically put the winners. That's exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about. It's like that takes a very small amount of effort for them to avoid pissing a bunch of people off for no reason.
Lastly, we've got to talk about the college championship winners.
We certainly
that
do.
Happened a little while ago. Yeah, we want to highlight all those people. So highlighting all the winners, we're going to go a little rapid fire because there are a lot of divisions to cover. We got teams as well as singles. But over on the D1 singles, on the MA1, Tanner Young from Cincinnati wins with a 9 under. In MA1, teamed Cincinnati also takes down the win, coming from behind to catch Emporia State. I was kind of watching scores for this one, and it was a pretty exciting final round. So on the men's teams, Cincinnati also takes down that win. On the women's side, singles, Brigham Young University, BYU, Taylor Rowley wins on the FA1 side. And on the team side, it goes to Mizzou, who was able to come back and repeat championships, beating out BYU by 2 strokes.
Just held off BYU in the final rounds.
Yeah, it was good. Over then on D2 singles, FMA1, Scott Ferguson from Iowa State takes down the win, beating out Adam Mon from Clemson. I wonder if that's related to Jake Mon. Same spelling. Gotta wonder. Every time I see similar names, I'm like, it's got to be family, right? Over on the D2 singles, for the men's side, North Carolina State takes down the win. On the D3 singles, you have Micah Jones from Anderson, who gets the win. And then in the D3 teams, you have North Carolina State taking down the win.
North Carolina State with A, B, C, and D teams. The D team beats the C team to win D3. So NC State on the come up big time. And I think we're going to see more of this. The big schools are throwing down a lot of good disc golf teams. C team in shambles, by
congratulations.
the way. NC State C team, I mean, that's brutal.
Shout out and congratulations to all the winners for the college championships.
Congrats to all. All right, that is going to do it for this week's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. North Cove Blue Ridge Championships coming up this weekend on the silver, and we are just literally, we are 1 week away from Champions Cup. I'm fired up.
Let's go.
We'll break it all down next week on the Upshot. Talk to you then.